These are people who tour with the Bloodstained Men that say, "Oh no, Brother K got these articles, not you."
You might
Be
as well claim that circumcision has health benefits. I mean,
yeah.
to claim that the Bloodstained Men responsible for 226 articles published in 2.5 years when they never have had that level of articles published in the previous 10 years, and the fact that as soon as we stopped doing our program, they have floundered and faltered.
NLI, as of right now, is servicing how many groups?
We just do a media outreach program. We're so swamped with what we're doing, and I'm creating the intact friendly certification. Can I show you that? Does that help at all? Can you see that?
Yeah, a little bit.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is just, it's going to be really extensive. This is the allostatic load, types of nerves, neurology. I mean, this isn't exactly completed, but you can kind of get the
Okay.
idea. So it's just going to be, it's like a flowery picture. It's got, images of children and stuff like that. It's going to be really geared towards midwives and doulas. If you get into business, right? And I was in the business of doing orthopedic rehab as a personal trainer. So you have to learn how to market your business. Well, one of the things I took the speech to sell class by our course by this lady named Lisa Sasevich, and she really kind of like tells you how to like communicate during a speech to get people to buy your products. They have people there that do branding. There's people that do videography. They'll do video for you, and they'll help you with it. So all these are businesses that help businesses. It's businesses that help businesses. So the way I look at it is this: I can teach anybody to do the same things that made my business successful, right? So that's what intactivism needs. Is they need to upgrade their systems. Like, there not should not be an intactivist organization alive that's not using Mautic, that doesn't have a web page that has a pop-up that gathers their viewers and puts them in a database into a segment on their system, their Mautic system, that they can then communicate with.
How could POTS use Mautic?
Well, you're basically YouTube, right? So you don't really have a website. I mean, if you were going to use Mautic, you would just piggyback off me, and I would just set up a program. So if you were to have like a web page that we put a Mautic pop-up on and delivered it to a segment that I would put on our Mautic system that you could utilize for your that could be like POTS interactivist segmented system on the Mautic server that we use, and then you could just go online there and send any emails that you wanted to. And so I would set you up as a user on the Mautic system. I mean, but if I were Intact America or Your Whole Baby or Bloodstained Men, what I would do is I would want my own system, my own system set up so that I can, control it and stuff like that. But for someone like POTS, like you're more of a YouTube platform as opposed to like, and I don't know if you want to evolve into something like that, you always could. So absolutely, you could possibly use it. But you have viewers, and your viewers, if they went onto your website and they signed up for your newsletter, and you started sending them, weekly or monthly emails, that would probably increase your viewership. You could, every time you get a new video completed, you could send that to your list, and that your list gets an email with your link on the email, and you can communicate what you want and doing and what your goals are. So I mean, you could definitely benefit from it, but it's like I'm looking at these
So
as,
I have a question. So
yeah.
NLI has a Mautic system. Is your goal to use it for NLI purposes, or is your goal to use it for other intactivist organizations? Because I've always seen Next Level Intactivism as an auxiliary support group, not necessarily
Right.
its own group standalone.
Right, totally. I mean, that's what we are. I knew that the Bloodstained Men didn't know what I knew. You know what I mean? They don't know what I know. And I knew that they had systems that weren't well designed to do what I'm talking about or what I ended up doing. And so I wanted to create this system for them. I wanted them to I didn't even want to do it. I wanted them to take it over. I didn't even want to be involved in it, to be honest with you. I just like, hey, we have these systems that we can create that can make you more effective and efficient. Like, who wouldn't want that? Like, I don't understand. Like,
Well,
people should be beating down my door.
have you pitched this idea to anybody else? Obviously, it's not an idea. It's obviously a product. At this point, I think NLI is a product. Have you pushed, like, have you gave this to, like, Intact America or Gaudaff and be like, "Hey, I can help you guys, like, whenever you have a protest or something, like, let me know
That,
when and where." Um,
yeah, that is coming next. To be honest with you, right now, I've been so focused on. I don't know how if you understand how much work I put into this. Like when the Bloodstained Men is on tour, I'm busy 70 hours a day. Okay. There's not 70 hours in a day, but I'm busy 70 hours a day. I'm like sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night. I'm up making phone calls. I'm sending messages. I'm doing all this stuff. Because, for a long time, I was the only one that I felt, that had came to me, and, Scott could do it, of course. And did do it a little bit, but I just felt like, I had this developing rapport with a lot of these reporters, and getting into their brains. Like, dude, I was having 2 or 3 hour conversations with some of these reporters. And, that was my goal, is to get on there and have these long conversations. So I was so swamped doing that. It takes so much effort to get the media of the state. Like, we don't have web scrapers right now. So we're going online, gathering every email, every phone number, one by one by one, right? That's a lot of time. We have 30,000 of those in our database. So 30,000 times one of us has grabbed an email offline and put it in our programs. Okay. 30,000 times. That's a lot of work, right? And this could be automated, but most of the time we're doing it ourselves. So
well, how much would
basically,
it
when I was running
cost
these
to
programs,
automate it?
I'm running ragged trying to get it done. And then when I'm done with that, then I'm trying to do other things. And I was trying to do a Monday meetup, and then I was trying to do the video editing for that Monday meetup. And by the time I was done with video editing, it was ready for another Monday, and I was trying to do all this. It's just too much. You can't run your own program by yourself without, and the support I had, with Scott and a bunch of others, it just wasn't like, I mean, I never had somebody come up and step up and say, you know what, I'm going to be your office manager. Let me take some of this load off you. I'm going to be your assistant or whatever, your personal assistant. Let me take some of this load off you. So it's almost like a one-man show. Like I'm doing everything, juggling everything. And so
How much is a web scraper?
a web scraper will gather the data, the contact data that we need offline. So it'll go on a website, and
How
it'll
much would
gather
it be?
emails. Well, we need a computer programmer for that. I mean, I don't know how much it would cost to make one. Um, that may be the where we end up having to go to if we can't get a. I mean, the sad thing is I've had computer programmers that have said they were going to do this, and then they kind of filter out, or they peter out. I get a lot of people. A lot of people. I mean, and I don't understand. Like some people say I'm hard to work with. I'm like, I've had like 2 hour conversations with intactivists, and then the next day I'll send them a message, and it's like crickets. I won't hear from them. Gone. Like they're gone. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like we had a great conversation. We were like kumbayaing, clapping hands together, all excited about our future. And then nothing. And I'm just like, I don't understand it. It's happened so many times. I'm like, maybe, I don't know. I don't even know why it's occurring. But the only thing I can think of is just, you know what? It's just, this is a hard issue, and a lot of people just don't want to deal with it. And, I still need volunteers, but I'm going to do this, if I can do this on my own, if I can, I mean, the web scraping, the gathering the data. If we go to a new place, we're still going to have to gather the data for that. So if you go to a state that we haven't been to, but a lot of this stuff we've done, like we have 13 states done, like Nevada was already done. So we didn't have to gather Nevada when Bloodstained Men went to Nevada. We won't have to gather Oklahoma, Missouri. Those are already done. So if Brett Johnson goes to any of those places, they're already done. I don't know where he's going next. Do you know where he's going next? Yeah, wherever they're going to be at, it doesn't matter where they're going to be at. We're going to run the same program for them. Like I said, it's going to be a lot easier. The phone calls are going to be a lot easier, a lot quicker. We're going to be leaving messages because the messages almost, I think, in some way were better than the phone calls in some way, because when you leave a message, they're just listening to the message, whereas you're having a phone conversation, you expect to reply back and forth. And so a lot of people will interrupt you when you're having a phone conversation, or you're having a conversation, because they don't want to just be lectured to, but you want to give them the information as well. So I would try to give them as much information as I can within that amount of phone call that I had. But the messages, it's just 6 minutes of them listening to me. So I don't know. Well,
If they win, if they
that
win.
Brett was all over the media last time. I mean, have you seen some of his? He was holding up a sign, "Unnecessary roughness." I mean, it was fantastic. Brett's program is absolutely unbelievable. I do not know why intactivism can't get together and fund that program just as much as we fund the Bloodstained Men. I mean, it should be, because
Well,
Bloodstained Men is so important, I think, but also the message of getting this to the youth, and in the way that Brett Johnson does it, he does it in a way that it entices them, it draws them in, it gets them involved instead of like, oh, here, this is done to you, suck it up and take it, which is kind of like what we're trying to get people to do. But it's really the way he does it is it's ingenious. Brett is a marketing genius, but when it comes to like
well,
developing a website, getting gathering information, getting a Mautic system set up, all that stuff set, he needs a lot of work on that.
does NLI and Cockfight, do they have like an alliance where it's like open discussion between you, Brett, Luke, and Dolores, I think is the third person in Cockfight?
I've been a close friend of Brett. He came to I did a protest in my hometown of Columbia, Missouri at the True False Festival. And Brett came down and brought a bunch of flyers and we tore up the True False Festival. If you think about the True False, it's an independent film festival full of progressive intellectuals supposed that are like on top of the world's issues that are all about human rights and civil rights and stuff like that, and here we are exposing them to the one of the issues that violates everything that they believe in, and it was just very powerful. But yeah, Brett's he's a close friend of mine, but I think he's overwhelmed. He's trying to do a business and he's trying to do Cockfight at the same time, and you just can't do both. I had to quit my job. I was doing 70 hours a week doing orthopedic rehab. I had to market my business. I had to do my taxes. I had to write the programs for my clients. I had to meet with my clients. I had to deal with them in the off hours. I had all this stuff on top of the actual meeting with them. And I was just like, there's no way either I'm going to do that or I'm going to do this. And I was like, well, how do I do this? And I was like, the only way I could do it is get a security job, make, $15, $18 an hour. I was making $80 an hour. I was making $80 an hour. Now I'm making 15, 8. Well, I'm making 19, but it's still like, it's compared to what I was making, it's nothing, but I had to do that in order to do this. And I don't know how Brett can do both. He just can't. And that's why he needs donations. So, but it's just really sad that we need to grow our movement. We need to have people that are like more consistent, that follow through, that don't just disappear after you had a wonderful conversation with them. It's almost like you gave them what they needed. And that's one of the things I learned by Lisa Sasevich is when I was doing these talks, I ran the Las Vegas Holistic Health and Exercise Group, and I would get up there and I'd give them a 2-hour lecture on diet, nutrition, and lifestyle, and mental emotional stress, and orthopedic rehab, and how and why programs should be designed a certain way. And I would give them all this information, and then I would leave them. And what I learned was I was giving them too much. I was giving them too much information. And what they would think is, I got all the information I need, so now I can go do this on my own. In reality, they really don't. They don't have the knowledge and know-how to really actually apply this into their lives and make it successful. I was just giving them too much information. And so I think that's one of the things I tend to do is give too much information. I have this 16-year-old kid. His name is Devin. He's another fantastic dude. He's been doing phone calls through this system and basically setting up his computer to play and press play and walk away. And he's been doing that for the last 6 months. And we've sent out a huge amount of messages to the reporters of California. And so we've been doing an outreach program to them, even though it's not connected with any protest. But that would be really the next stage is like, go
That's
ahead.
what I'm wondering about because I feel like if NLI right now can run on its own, why teach people about this? Why not just go to Intact America? Be like, hey, your media team? You don't need it. You got me. I'll do it for you. Give me like 20 bucks a month or something. And then just go to all the intactivist groups and be like, hey, I got you. Give me 20 bucks a month. And that's nothing to bigger groups. And then you're getting enough to stay funded so you can go help them. And they don't need to go and pay people full time because some people are getting paid quite a bit to do media, the same stuff you're doing. Because there's nothing wrong with getting paid, I don't think, for what you're doing, especially if it's like bare bones just to keep going. I mean, I guess my question is why hasn't the intactivist group just like picked it up? Because even if Cockfight would pick up your system, it seems like you would make them way more popular. You'll magnify their voice. They'll get more donations in. And then once they start getting more donations, Brett Johnson might realize, hey, Cockfight is a business because a nonprofit is still a business. I can now pay myself through Cockfight and keep doing this and keep like do this full time. Does that make sense?
I totally agree with you. I think that is really the next step, to be honest with you. Especially now that I don't have to worry so much about volunteers making phone calls and repeating the same processes over and over again. So if we can automate these processes that was once, I was dependent upon, maybe we could set it up so that there's a and I got to figure out more about Mautic to do this. But yeah, we're kind of brainstorming as we're going through this process, as we're doing this interview, because yeah, all these are great ideas and we need to implement them. But yeah, that's been my whole idea in the beginning, was to get the organizations to raise up their capabilities, to improve their ability to deliver emails, to make, I don't know what systems they're using. I don't know what Brandon Murata's using. I don't know what system he's using, but why would we use a system that costs us any more than $200 a year when all you have to do is upload it and have it run for free? There's no limitations on the number of emails you can send. You don't have to raise up your level if you get a certain number of emails. You can have 10,000, you can have
Well,
200,000 emails, a million emails on this system, and it'll still run.
my question
So
is why pay a third party company that's not an intactivist group? Why not pay NLI that's an intactivist group? Because it's like you're making a donation, but you're actually returning a service. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone there. And so the money just circulates in intactivism. So that's my
I
question.
agree. I'm
And
down for that.
and
I'm always up for this type of advice, because that's what helped me to be successful in my business is like, hey, if I have a booger on my nose, someone's got to tell me. And I had to have people tell me, hey, because I wanted to run my business the way I wanted to run it. I wanted to give everybody the information. What do you mean I can't give them information? These are my people. I want them to have the knowledge, even if they don't hire me. And what I was doing is I was actually doing them a disservice because I was giving them too much information. I was making them think that they had enough information that they could take it and run with it, and they couldn't. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah. So, anyways, I totally agree with you. I think that would be the next stage, would be to just say, hey, look, we got this system. We can segment a list for you within our system, but the major concern I have right now is making sure we don't get our IP address labeled as spam, because if we start sending, if we just start sending to this huge email list that we have, we would probably get blocked in some sort of way.
well, it would be selective, right? Because if you're doing, let's say, Cockfight, that's just going to be in Kansas. Like, so it's only going to be like a targeted area. If it's in Intact America, it's going to be New York, most likely. So it's not like you're spamming all over the states, not all 50 of them.
See, the thing is the same IP address that we'd be sending for Intact America, that we'd be sending for Cockfight, that we'd be sending for Your Whole Baby, would also be the one that's sending to this massive number of media outlets who has the potential to downregulate our sending
Why
process.
can't you
So
use a VPN?
it's not, it's actually a server online. So
Oh,
Mautic is set up on a server online. It communicates with this other server this email center called Postal. And what it does is it sends emails through Postal out. So it's gonna have the same IP address.
all right.
Yeah.
Question. Have you talked to Intact America, Bloodstained Men, about the media system they use, and have they answered you?
I've repeatedly brought this to, I mean, I didn't even want to do this program. Like I said, I, because, okay,
Like,
okay, what happened was,
did they
what
tell
happened
you
was,
we're using this, or like, did they tell you
what
what
happened
system or
was,
program they're using? Hmm.
here's what happened.
Hmm.
Okay. So I went on 4 tours or 4 protests with the Bloodstained Men. They came to Chula Vista. It was literally a block away from where I lived. I walked down the street, showed up. This is the first time I met Brother K. And Brother K is like a hero of mine, like still is to this day. I think Brother K has saved more babies than any other human being alive that's ever lived. So Brother K is hero to me, either way. But so I did 4 days with them. Not one media outlet showed up, not one. The only person that showed up was a student reporter who happened to drive by and saw the protest. That's the only one that stopped by. On the way to California, when I noticed we didn't have any media in Chula Vista and Santee, I actually showed up hoping to be someone that was interviewed. I wanted to be in one of the interviews. I wanted to get interviewed on the news because I'm educated about this. So I wanted to be interviewed. So Nothing showed up in Chula Vista. Nothing showed up in Santee. So I'm like, okay, on the way there, we're on the phone. We're on the drive there. I'm like, hey man, I got this phone right here. Why don't I start calling media? Like, why not? And they're like, no, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. I'm like, why? Oh, we have somebody doing that. I'm like, okay, well, wouldn't it help if more people are doing that? No, 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 because if you call them and you piss them off, you're likely to say the wrong thing and they won't cover it. I'm like, huh? How does that make sense?
Do you
That
think
didn't
they were
make any
lying
sense
to
to me.
you? Because
Well,
it's
I don't know what they were saying. I guess they, maybe the person who was doing it said that she had this fancy secret handshake that the Illuminati only know that somehow gets them to bypass the reporters and all that was on the report. It didn't make sense to me. So
but no one's
uh,
showing up though. That's my question. If they have the secret sauce to this and yet
the
no one's
most
showing
important
up.
the most important thing for anybody in this movement to do is to be able to critically question yourself. Is what you're doing effective and efficient? And if it's not, you got to change your tactics. So, like I said, the most important thing for a protest group is getting coverage by the media. That's the most important thing. That's 90%. That's, you ever heard the 80-20 rule where you do 20% more, you get 80% of the results? This is part of that 20% that you do this and you get 80% more results. So
So
it
are
made no
you
sense to me.
so are you saying that the Bloodstained Men are stagnating? Because that is a complaint I hear a lot about the
I
Bloodstained
no,
Men.
this is my history with them. I'm not saying anything about them, but what I'm saying
Okay.
is that they said they didn't want me doing it. So I did for a year. And I knew this was a problem. I knew it grated at my soul. It was like, I don't know, I guess grating your soul is, I mean, if you could imagine taking your heart and just grating it against a cheese grater, that's what it felt like. So the Southern, and I was in concert, I was in communication with Brett Johnson. Brett Johnson told me that they had this lady running it. Her name was Erica. She had a full-time job. She was overwhelmed. What she would do is she would go online. She would find an email from each individual organization. So like info at whatever, newsagency.com. And then she would send them a press release, which is a 2 or 3 paragraph thing. Bloodstained Men's going to be protesting at such and such time. And that was it. That's the extent of their media outreach. And I'm like, no, no, no. We need people. If you had 5 people calling saying, hey, there's a protest, that's much better than 1 person calling. If you had 10 people calling, that's better than 2 people calling. To me, the ideas didn't make sense. So I'm like, well, why, this just doesn't make sense. They're not getting media coverage. It seems to me they're floundering at the most important aspect of their what they're supposed to be doing. And Brett was telling me about the system. I'm just like, and so Brett started the database that I'm using right now. He started with the, phone numbers, location, all this stuff, URL, all this stuff, same stuff that I'm using right now. And Brett didn't want to get into that. He's like, he started gathering all these media for Texas. And this was right before the Southern College Tour in 2019. This was before the AAP protest in 2018. So I got that media database from Brett, and I started gathering the data for all these media or all these locations that the Bloodstained Men was traveling to prior to the 2018 AAP convention. And in 5 days, I got 5 media articles published. And what I did was I gathered all the emails, all the phone numbers. I wrote out the emails. I sent as many emails, as many web forms as I could possibly get. And I was making phone calls in the morning. I would be up all night gathering the data, sending the emails. By the time the morning struck, I'm making the phone call. Like I send the last email, I'm making a phone call. Okay. And I'm making phone calls for 4 or 5 hours. Bloodstained Men got 5 media articles published in 5 days. So nobody can tell me this doesn't work. James Lohan was on Facebook saying the media loves the Bloodstained Men. I'm like, yeah, they do. I go to the protest and they were trying to silence me. John Sandberg and Brother K didn't want me to have the microphone. I guess they got some idea in their head that I'm some like, and I'm very angry about this. And I do not mince meat. I do not mince meat. I call a spade, and I'm never ashamed of what I say. And I have the right to be angry, as should any victim. And I feel like that the problem is a lot of people don't hear that anger because, how many times you hear no, men don't complain. Well, maybe someone needs to hear me complain because I guarantee you after hearing me complain, you're not going to say men don't complain anymore. And I think they just assume that I'm just this off the hinge, lunatic without any check to my voice. And I'm like, no, I can deal with anybody on any level of this. And I do recognize my own trauma and my own limitations, right? I do recognize that, yeah, there's times that I have I could tone it down a little bit and be a little bit more kumbaya or whatever. But, you know, I still think that they need to hear the angry voice. It's kind of like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The reason why the meerkats all fall down into their cages and get away from the hyenas is because one meerkat sounds the alarm, right? And all the other meerkats jump down. So, the idea that we need to be kumbaya and just be peace-loving intactivists is, I think, incorrect. I think we need to show them that we're angry and that this is something that we will fight against. But anyways, so they were trying to silence me, and I'm like, why would you silence me? Like, and what happened was I was on the side of this. There was this big, huge stairway right here, and I'm on the side, and I flew from San Diego to Orlando, Florida, across the continent to get there, to get on the microphone and yell at my abusers, right? Like, I'm not there to sing kumbaya. This is not I'm talking on a street corner with the parent. It's a different energy. I'm there to accost my abusers, not to. And so I'm on the phone and I'm making a video for my YouTube channel, and I'm recording it, and I'm talking about Meissner corpuscles and Sorrell's fine touch sensitivity testing, and Dr. Sorrell's fine touch sensitivity testing, and Taylor Colton Lockwood's histology study. And this lady comes around the corner and starts telling me that I caused some kid to puke. And I'm like, what do you mean I caused some kid to puke? Anyway, she goes over, runs across the street, tells Brother K that I'm saying these outrageous things and I caused some kid to puke. So Brother K storms across the street, gets in my face. Now, I tell you, there is not a bit of coward in that man. I mean, I'm physically stronger than him, and I'm a trained martial artist, and he's in my face yelling at me. There's no coward in that man at all. I have the utmost respect for him, but it's like, I think he just needs to, I don't know if it's misplaced, if he doesn't understand me, if he, they took this thing of this energy they thought about me and they just went way beyond what it really was. I don't know what it is, but he's yelling in my face. And to me, this is like, you knew I wouldn't listen to you about, I wouldn't quiet down, that I did this media outrage despite, and this is why you're angry at me. I don't understand this. Like, none of this made sense. So Brother K blew up on me. I'm yelling back at him. You don't have the right to tell me what I can and can't say. You can't silence me. You're not my parents. And who the hell are you to tell me what I can and can't say? And, he's going off on me because he thinks I made this kid puke, which is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous claim. The kid puked. If the kid puked because I was talking about Meissner corpuscles, then the kid extrapolated the fact that the Meissner corpuscles are these so sensitive that this trauma that the kid suffered is extreme and excruciating, and he had a visceral reaction. Good on the kid, that means the kid is so in tune and so in touch with the reality of the situation that caused him to have a visceral reaction and caused him to puke, which would mean this kid is one of the best of us, right? This kid gets it. Like, this kid really recognizes the situation. This is not something that I caused or whatever. The kid's just coming to terms. I don't think that's what happened. The kid just puked. But anyways, so after this, I was just kind of like, whatever, and I didn't do anything. And then I waited for almost a whole year. 2019, it's the Southern College Tours. We're back almost the same. This is right before COVID happened. And I said, it, I'm going to do this. And I knew I wasn't doing anything, and I wasn't doing anything in my business. And I was like, okay, I have to quit my business. I have to do this full time. And that's why I went full force into this. And in 20 protests, we got 15 articles published, which I don't think the Bloodstained Men have ever had 15 articles published in their entire life. In the entire 10 years they've been doing this in one tour. 15 articles published. I have all of them. I have all of the links to all of these articles. It's not like I'm making this stuff up. And 15 articles published. Okay, then COVID happened. So 2 years COVID happened. Me and Scott were creating databases and doing the MIME library. The MIME library, I put like a couple of years into that, by the way. This is a large process. The whole library is named, renamed. It's got multiple names on it. You can type in one thing on the website and it'll pull up all the MIMEs that are attached to that. It's going to make our website very, very powerful in the future, in the very near future. But all that system's developed. But so we come back and I'm like, is this a fluke? Is this a fluke that I was able to? This is better than any marketing job I've ever done in my career, and as a personal trainer. So I'm like, this has got to be a fluke. Well, they had the Pennsylvania was the first protest tour that the Bloodstained Men did right after COVID. In 20 days, we got 20 articles published. This is not a fluke. This is not a mistake. This is not something the Bloodstained Men is doing. I don't care what anybody says. The reason why they got 15 and then 20 is because of us. And then we did the same thing in the I don't know how many times we've done this. It's been over and over and over. The last 3 tours, we were bare bones and weren't doing barely anything. They did a tour in Florida. They did one in New York, and they did one in West in Virginia and Washington. Look at the numbers of media articles they got published during those 3 tours. It was minuscule, like 2 and 3, 4. We've never had that since we started this, and we were not operational at that time because things in my life and I'm struggling and the lack of volunteers, people that, I mean, just like, I need help. You can't do this stuff on your own. This is why business have employees. They have a marketing, they have a manager, they have a payroll, they have, a tax person, they have, human resources, they have, they have education for their employees. They have this whole, I mean, there's multiple employees that are involved in this stuff. That's why it's one person just can't do it. You need support, you need help of other people to do it. And I'm just like, I got to the point where I was just like, I can't do it. I can't put out like this every time. I can't do, 70 hours a day every day for 2 weeks while the Bloodstained Men's on tour. I just can't. And so I kind of let it go and just, you look at the results and it's like, I know there's no logical person. And I keep hearing these people say, oh no, the Bloodstained Men did it. That nobody, you didn't do that or whatever. And I'm like, the numbers prove themselves. You look at before, I think I saw one protest or one tour, they got eight articles published, which is pretty substantial. I think that was the best they've ever done was 8. But we doubled that and did 15 and 20. So, and then we've done one, we had 23. We had one article published that was republished 72 times. And it was a very, and oh, here's the other thing. The contents and the quality of the articles that have been published while we are doing our protests is vastly superior to the previous quality of articles. You get these other articles, oh, the Bloodstained Men's protesting, da, 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 and at the end they say, but the AAP says the benefits outweigh the risk, and it says it prevents penile cancer and UTIs and HTV and all, just this nonsense, right? This is not even, none of these excuses are even convincing slightly. Like they're dumb. They're just stupid excuses. Like if this was not part of human culture and you brought this up to anybody live on the planet, they would laugh you out of the room. If you were to say that this is a reason to cut parts off of children, they would probably attack you, really, if this was, just outside of this cultural conditioning that we've been conditioned into. It's just outrageous. So, the people know this. When they're given the information, they know this, right? So as soon as they that's why our goal has been not just to be a press release. Why would we do that? The Bloodstained Men don't need another press release. They need someone that's out there educating the reporters. And we focused on, and that's why the script is 3 2-minute scripts. The first one is anatomy, structure, and function. The second one is psychological, because if you understand the anatomy, structure, and function, and you understand that this is not some bland, boring tissue that has no influence at all, that's literally the most pleasurable, sensitive part of our genitalia, which are one of the most sensitive parts of our bodies. I mean, just kick a man in the nuts, you'll see him double over for the next 10 minutes and he won't even move, right? Obviously, they're sensitive. That allows you to understand why it's psychologically damaging. And then the last one is the medical excuses in the history. So you look at the history, those kind of relate into the medical excuses we have today. So those 3 subjects is what we're trying to educate them on. Well, you look at the new articles, I think I've, out of like 20, you would see one that would say, oh, by the AAP says, duh, 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 duh. And before it was like every single article. We had one published in Hayes Protest. It's like I wrote the damn thing. It's like Brother K wrote the damn thing. It's an intactivist, 10 pages of intactivists in Hayes, Kansas, the hotbed of circumcision. We did better in Kansas it was called the Great Plains Tour. Then we got, I think, 23 articles published in 20 tours. Sometimes we got 2 a day. I mean, it was fantastic. And that was in the middle, the hotbed of circumcision, the worst area of the country, the most brainwashed place in the country. And we got 23 articles published. I mean, these are not flukes. These are not mistakes. I got interviewed on the news. There's all kinds of stuff. There's just so many things we could be doing that nobody's doing, and we
So,
need to.
how is NLI going to flourish, especially with the Bloodstained Men? Because I know you said, oh, well, some people say it's just the Bloodstained Men, and people might be thinking, oh, that's just some Redditor. No, these are people who tour with the Bloodstained Men that say, "Oh no, Brother K got these articles, not you." I've seen the Discord comments and things like that. And it's pretty wild stuff. But how can NLI
You might
be?
as well claim that circumcision has health benefits. I mean,
Yeah,
to claim that the Bloodstained Men responsible for 226 articles published in 2.5 years when they never have had that level of articles published in the previous 10 years, and the fact that as soon as we stopped doing our program, they have floundered and faltered. I mean, it's the proof is in the. I
pudding.
mean, I can't even answer that. I mean, if you can't, you're obviously in denial of math. You're just really bad at math, and maybe you need to go and review some math courses. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's, you might as well claim that circumcision has health benefits. That's how ridiculous that kind of statement is to me.
Yeah, so wouldn't if you just solely helped Cockfight, wouldn't you be able to prove the Bloodstained Men wrong and their crew members? Like, oh look, I helped Brett Johnson rise and he's getting all these articles published. And I think that would definitely prove your point if you're like, look, Cockfight's getting more articles published than you guys. Like, what are you doing? You know?
Well, you got to think about it this way. Cockfight is doing something very, very different. Cockfight is going to one city and one location, and they're protesting at that one city.
So
Bloodstained
I
Man is doing,
interviewed Brett Johnson. He said he's been to 13 states.
no, I mean, like, when he's on a protest, he's at that location. He's not going to 5 different places in 5 different days. The reason why we can get 5 different articles published in 5 days because there are 5 different major locations in 5 days. Now, if Brett was doing that, I don't know how he would do that. And there's not that many games going on. Brett is like, if we get one article published in per protest, I'm happy. I doubt we're going to get 3 or 4 articles published. I mean, maybe eventually, as intactivism itself starts to filter itself into American consciousness, we'll get more articles published that way.
Did you notice how Daniel just cut out all weird like? Well, that's because Zoom cut us off. But no longer will we have those issues because now, thanks to you guys, POTS can afford Zoom Pro. So thank you guys very much for that. Anyways, this was the last part of the Daniel Rold interview series. Let me know if you think Bloodstained Men are responsible for their uptick in articles or if next level intactivism is. Also, please click the like button as that really helps out the video for the algorithm, and maybe consider sharing it. Thank you for hanging out with me and Daniel today. Bye!